Everyone, it's Tim Topham here again on this Monday morning here in Australia, Sunday evening if you're over in the United States and or in Europe as well. So today's Facebook Live is all about GarageBand, and I'll shortly be flipping over my camera to actually show you some of the screen. But I thought we'll just give people a few minutes to tune in, because I know there's a lot of interest in this as a topic. For those of you who are joining live, I can see there's a few people there already. Or if you're watching the replay, let us know. Give us a hello in the comments. Let us know that you're there. And if you've got any questions too, feel free to pop them into the comments at any stage too. Nice to see Morgan. Hello, good morning. Is already here. Thank you very much for that, Morgan. And do apologise too for I might sound a little bit croaky. I did come down with a cold over the weekend, which was delightful way to spend some nice quality time off. So I hope you guys are all fit and healthy out there wherever you are in the world. Who else have we got? We've got Ken from SC. Now, where's SC, Ken? And we've got Sharon as well. Awesome, Sharon. Good to see you. So don't be shy if you're tuning in, either live or to the replay. Just say a quick hi. It'd be great to see who's there. And I can already see just from the countdown that we had, the announcement page for this Facebook Live, there was some questions there already. So Cheryl was saying, I have a high school boy who hates metronomes, so I hope this gives me more fun way to keep the beat. I'm going to talk about metronomes today, actually, Cheryl, if you're watching live or when you join us or watch the replay. Cami says, my teenage students love this app. I'm going to do a summer workshop on it. Yeah, this is such a fun app for a summer workshop or a camp. So yes, stay tuned for more information on that. Sarah says, I don't understand it yet, so that's great. Good time to be here. And there's a few others saying, yes, we'd really love to learn some more. So, yeah, brilliant. We've got Zoe from Mexico. Hello, Zoe. Nice to see you. And Anne as well, Sharon, and Margaret over in Perth. Good morning. So yeah, the overview today, I'll officially start in about 30 seconds when that countdown finishes. But yeah, I'm actually going to show you GarageBand on my computer, actually show you me using it, so you've got a good idea of how you can get started. Of course, I only want Facebook Lives to go for a short amount of time, so it will be a nice little introduction, and then I'm actually going to do exactly the same thing at the same time. Well, not the same thing. I'm going to do a new topic, still on GarageBand, at exactly the same time next week. So stay tuned for that, and I'll tell you what I'm actually going to be talking about then. We got Claire as well. Good morning, Claire. Nice to see you. Trish as well. So great. Keep saying hello, and let me know if you do have any questions. And I think we might get underway now. So what is GarageBand? Well, GarageBand, in my experience, and the way I use it, is for creating audio recordings. That's pretty much what it's designed to do. It's a multi-track audio recorder, and it's the kind of thing that back when I was at university 20 years ago, used to only be available in multi-million-dollar recording studios, and previously to that, things on tape-to-tape reels. That was how it was all done. Now, of course, we can get it on our iPads or iPhones, and it's 100% free, which I think is unbelievable. Now, I think it's certainly free if you've got an Apple device. Unfortunately, GarageBand is not available on Android. So sorry about that for you guys, and I don't know the equivalent because I'm very much an iPad person, because I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives when it comes to iPads. But if you have an older generation iPad or iPhone, it might not have automatically been pre-installed, and I know that it does take a little bit of memory and space. So if you're having trouble downloading it and you have an iPad or iPhone, it might be because of the age of your device. So just check that out. I'm not entirely sure, and feel free to jump in if you've got any questions. Yeah, are people being able to hear me? So Morgan says, should I be hearing anything yet? Yes, you should be. Can people hear me speaking now? Let me know if you've got any issues with the sound. So how do we access it? Well, let me show you actually on my iPad. I'm going to flip over to my other camera now, which is over here next to me. So this is my main screen of my iPad. While I'm here, let me just flip over. I'll just flip over here to, this is my kind of piano page. Thanks, Lindsay and Margaret and Ken. That's great to know the audio is working. Okay, this is my piano teaching page, and you can see I've just got everything in folders. So I've got a folder for all my note learning apps here. I've got a folder for files and scanning. I've got a folder for my rhythm-based apps. So if you're unsure about how to get things into folders, then I'm sure you'll be able to find a video about it online. But that is definitely the best way to get things actually organized. So for me too, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's an easy trick to find anything on an Apple device. Just drag one finger down and up comes the search function. I'll just start typing Garage. It's even easier than looking into one of the actual folders. So that's how you access GarageBand. You'll need to go to the App Store if you haven't already got it and download it. And here you'll find all of the songs that you've created. Now for me, this screen's quite full because I've done quite a few recordings, but if you've just started, there might be an absolute blank page here. So I'll show you in a minute about some of the screens inside and what this app can do. But I did want to mention one other thing, and that's equipment that you need as well as the GarageBand app. And the only other equipment you need is some speakers. So please, 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 whatever you do, don't use the iPad inbuilt speaker when you're trying to teach students about, or you're trying to use GarageBand in your studio. The inbuilt speakers just don't cut it, and you'll barely be able to hear GarageBand over the top of your students if they're playing along, which is what I like them to do. So what I recommend is getting something like a Logitech surround system, or I can't remember exactly what they're called, but the best recommendation I have is to jump onto Amazon, or actually I have a page on my website. I'll just type it into the comments now, timtopham.com/resources. And that gives you a link to my recommendation here. And for well under $100, or maybe $100, $150, you can get a subwoofer and 2 speakers that are going to work perfectly with GarageBand. And the reason I recommend having a subwoofer is that it really pumps out the bass, and kids love hearing some bass. So when you're doing some drums and bass playing and things like that with GarageBand, it really pays to have an external speaker system that has a subwoofer. So head to that link if you're not too sure, and you can find out a little bit more about that. Okie doke. So let's head back over to GarageBand and talk about some of its uses. So I've used this in my studio for quite some time now, and there's a variety of uses. So one is for composing with students. Another is for straight audio recording. So I'm going to click on this one here. It's called You're the Voice. Now, back in, 10 years ago or something, I had to accompany a choir singing John Farnham's You're the Voice. Now, if you're not an Australian, you might not know this song, but it has this kind of clapping backing track behind it. And so the easiest way for me to create that in order to play along with it was to use GarageBand. So we just set that going, and that goes through the entire song. And so for someone who might be accompanying another group and you're in a little band, or you're just on a piano but you need a bit of strings or a bit of bass while you're accompanying a choir or a cello or another instrument, then GarageBand can be used to quickly and pretty easily create a bit of extra sonic sound for your accompaniment or whatever it is that you're playing. So that's one use of it. The other use is for students composing. So I actually want to show you a composition that one of my students did. This is a composition by a student called George. So I use my 4-chord composing process to help students create chord progressions that sound really, really fantastic and that they really enjoy playing along with. But the problem is, when students are playing chord progressions, they're using their right hand playing the chord and their left hand is playing the bass line. And so there's no room for melody and other sounds. And so this is where GarageBand comes in, and it's such a great use of it. So what George did is he created his 4-chord composition, and then he grabbed a guitar sound, which you can see here, and inputted the chord progression in and created this acoustic guitar track here. So let me play it. So before I go on to the rest of the track, just to let you know, George is not a guitar player. So I'm going to actually show you in our coming sessions how you can actually create these kinds of very full, rich mixes with any instrument without knowing actually how to play them, which is one of the great tricks of GarageBand. So you could hear that just had this drum machine going along underneath it, and he had his guitar track, which was playing a guitar version of his 4-chord composition. And then now I'll play a little bit more. We're adding bass here and then some cinematic strings. So you can see now he's brought in this hard rock guitar with a whole lot of distortion, kind of giving his track a new feel again. And there's this vintage lead, which actually is a little bit hard to hear. So I can easily change the volume level here. Just turned up the lead. And now, this is the use of an effect down here. So you heard, hopefully heard the effect use here. It kind of cut all the high frequencies out and just went straight down to low frequencies. It's a really common effect used by dance music producers. I'll just play it again. It's so easy to do, and these effects are so much fun too. Have a listen. So I'll show you more about effects on another video. They are so much fun to use. And then he starts his kind of B section here, so new chord progression. So that was his composition, and what he was doing was actually playing along on the piano while this was playing. So he created this as a backing track for his own music. Which is a great thing to do if students have created a chord progression that they really would love to fill out into a bigger kind of arrangement. This is the power of this device. It's really quite phenomenal what it can do. In fact, let me just show you... I'll go back to where the song continues here. And by the way, you can change all these settings, like the length of bars, the beat, the time signature, the metronome speed, all of these things can be changed. So let's just go to here. We've got, looks like a few bars where all the instruments are back in. So what I've done is I've just pressed the FX button. I'll just show you this quickly because, you know, if you're going to do this with a workshop or a summer camp, you're going to actually have to put a time limit on the amount of time kids use this effects panel because it's so much fun. Even I have to stop myself as well. I'm going to play the track as it is and just muck around with a couple of these effects so you can get a feeling for how they sound. You've got things like record scratches, things going in reverse, waveform filters, all sorts of things. And the best thing is that all of those effects can be recorded into the track. So it is the thing that I'm just amazed by is just how much this thing can do. And the fact that it's free. This is why the title of this was, you know, is this the best free track or free app for piano teachers? Well, I think it's probably the best free track for just about any music teacher around there. So what I thought I'd do today is just let me show you a few of the main pages that you'll need to get used to. And what I'm going to do is next week at exactly the same time and place, I'm going to build a track with you. And so I thought I might do a 12-bar blues backing track that you could use in your studio. And we might make one actually live. But for today, let me just show you a little bit about some of the screens and things that that happen in this app. So top left is this little plus. We're going to click that. Unfortunately, you can't see what it says here, but one of these is Create New Song, which I'm going to click on now. And so this is the screen where I call this the instrument chooser. So these are all the instruments that you've got to choose for your recording, including the audio recorder. So if I just go, I'm just going to click on the voice down here, I can actually just record straight in the microphone input from the iPad, or if I had plugged in here a connection to my digital piano, I could record directly in from my digital piano. But if I just hit record now, I could go ba 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 da 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 da, or whatever. Excuse my scratchy voice. Yeah, let's not listen to that anymore. So I've just done an audio recording and the first track is in. So let me show you that other view that I was just in before when demonstrating George's track. And that's the track view. And that you get to by clicking this button here. And this shows you all the tracks that have been recorded from top to bottom. I'm not sure if you can see if see the waveform there. You can just see it. Yeah, I'm not sure why. It's a little bit hard to see. So that's been now recorded in, and we could now add more instruments. And to get back to that instrument chooser, that's this button here. Okay, and we're back here. So we could now add a second track to my terrible singing, which I don't even know if it's in a key or anything. So we've got things like drummers, and these drummers, there's actually two options for drums. And I recommend if you're just starting out, use this drum option first. So we could go to smart drums. I mean, this is just phenomenal, and again, it's just amazing what this thing can do. So this is a drum grid of complex and loud in the top right corner, simple and quiet in the bottom left corner. So if we turn it on and just grab the kick drum, we can put it in the quiet corner, or we can put it in the loud corner. We can add some claps, maybe some cymbals, and we better have some hi-hats. And if you don't really like how that sounds, click the dice. You get the idea. I mean, it's endless in its potential, and it's an amazingly good time waster as well. So just watch out for that, everyone, okay? So that's just one of the drum options. You can, of course, just choose to play if you're a drummer, like me. I could play the drum, so I could record this in, and the kick, and snare. Or I could try playing it all together, which is much harder. And of course, this is just one kit. If I click here, I could go to a live rock kit, which will be slightly different again. Looks different, sounds different, or there's a whole number of drum machines as well, which are all electronic sounding. Okay, let's go back to the instrument chooser. And so, if you're going to explore this between now and when I next do a video, then, feel free to explore the bass. The string sounds are pretty fantastic as well. So this is a cello. You can choose whether it's actually a legitimate cello fretboard, or that was a little sneak over here. You can choose just to play major scales. I know you can't really see this, but there's a list like minor pentatonic and blues and different scales. So if you don't actually know how to play on the fretboard, which I don't really know how to play, you could do that. But there's also another way, and this is with the chord function. And with this, you can actually have your orchestra play based on the chords that the student has chosen. this is where it gets really, really fun and really, really exciting. So I'm going to show you more about that in a future video. So let's go back to our track view. So you can now see that even though we haven't recorded anything, the string track has come up here. So we could record some strings to add to that. But one of the other screens is if I double click actually no, I'll need to record something in. But there is actually an edit window. So let me quickly record, just to record a little keyboard here. So I'm just going to hit record. Okay, this is an absolutely terrible recording because we're all in different keys and who knows what's going on. But if I now go back to the track view, you'll see we've got my little... I was playing a keyboard, but the bass sound was a picked bass. And let me see if I can get it so I can show you... Oh, there, you can just see there's some different levels and lengths of notes. So you can actually edit this in the edit window. So if I go to edit, you get what's called the piano roll editor. And so you can see all the notes here. You can actually change them. You can change their length. And do all sorts of crazy things like that, and you can zoom in too. So you can do some fine adjustment. It can, for those of you who know what quantizing is, which means putting everything in time, you can also do that too, which is pretty clever. And that used to be something that only the best sequencers could ever do back in the past. And this whole idea of multi-track recording, just knocked my camera there, is all something literally that most instruments couldn't do, most keyboards couldn't do. Maybe in the mid-90s, electronic keyboards started introducing sequences, but you couldn't visualize anything like this. If you did a bad take, you'd just have to redo it. So again, that's why I think this is just so smart and so useful for us. So they're the main windows, and hopefully you've got an idea. Let me know in the comments if this is sounding like something that you could use with your students and that your students would go, oh my goodness, this is really, really cool. Let me know. Just leave a comment right now. It'd be really cool to hear what you're thinking. Now that you've got, this is like the tiniest little taste of what this can do. Let me know what you think about it for your students. So that were the main windows that I've just shown you then. And let me show you one other track as well that I did. Where was it? I showed you George. Let's just have a look at this demo track. Thanks, Rebecca. Yes, you can see it working for your students. Okay, so that was another demo track that I did when I was demonstrating this and creating some videos about it. So it's just I've got to say it's really easy once you get your head around how it all works, and the quality. This is the thing about it too. It's not crummy MIDI, old school 80s MIDI quality. The sound that this thing produces is literally phenomenal. And as I say, as good as I've done an audio engineering degree, as good as anything that we used to use when I was going through university, and it's all free and it's on this tiny little app. I think it's just amazing. So, that's just a little bit of an overview, and I really hope that can give you some ideas about what is possible here with this. Now, I've got a freebie that I'd love to give away, and it looks like this. It's actually a 4-page overview of the main screens and what all the buttons do. So literally what the screen says and what the buttons do. You can see this one is one of the main instrumental page screens. So if you'd like to grab this, download, you can just type guide into the comments right now, just the word guide, and that will be sent through to you by my little robot, my Tim bot, that seemed to work so well last time. So let me know if it works this time. I hope it does. It should pop it up for you in Messenger and provide it as a file download link. And that's just a great thing to have on beside you when you're working with a student, or you could even give to a student. I'm fine for you to, photocopy that, give it to your students so that they've got a reference as well. Why not? There we go. Good to see everyone's getting a guide now. That's fantastic. So that was just, as I say, a really quick overview, and I wanted to keep this relatively short in order to go on next week with some more details. So next week what I'm going to do is actually create a track live with a little bit more planning than my terrible singing this morning, and hopefully my voice will be better. Not that I will be singing next week, but we might try to create a 12-bar blues backing track, and maybe if we've got time, I'll do a little 4-chord composing demo too, just how quickly and easily students could take a chord progression that they've created that they've created in the studio with you using something like my 4-chord composing concept, and then create an epic film score or dance track or whatever it is out of it. So that's my goal for you for next week. Now, if you've heard about this 4-chord composing, you're not too sure what that is actually all about, let me type in a link for you, which is timtopham.com/chords. That's a great place to go to start having a look at my approach to chord playing. Now, I'm just going to check through too. If you've got any questions of things that you'd like me to cover in my next week's video, then let me know. Or if I can answer a quick question now, I'd be more than happy to. I can see there's a good 40 people or so watching right now. And the same if you're watching the replay too, let me know. Lindsay says, seems more versatile than iReal Pro. Now this is really interesting actually, because someone asked about using GarageBand as a metronome. Let me just show you something about metronomes and GarageBand. So if I flick back over to GarageBand, if I want to create a metronome sound, then I can start a new track and add a drum beat using something like Smart Drums. So just note how many clicks I've got to do to get to this point. I've got to turn the drum machine on. Let's roll the dice. Okay, so we've got a drum beat now that could be used as a metronome if you wanted to. However, if we want to change the tempo, we've got to click up here in the little spanner icon, and I think you can just see that. And then another click to change the tempo. You can tap, or you can change the tempo with the scrollers here. So all up, that's a whole lot of clicking around. So for me, I don't use GarageBand for metronomes. I much prefer using something called Super Metronome Groovebox, which is this one. You open the app and you press play and you change the tempo. So that is by far my preferred metronome app. So I don't recommend using GarageBand as a metronome. It's just a bit clunky and it takes too long to get there. This app that I'm using here is called Super Metronome Groove Box. I've typed it into the comments there. I know it's a bit of a long one. This is the free one I'm using in front of you now, and it just does one beat, and it's a whole lot better than using a metronome if you're doing popular styles with students. So that would be what I recommend instead of GarageBand. But the question was GarageBand versus iReal Pro. They're quite, there's some crossover, but iReal Pro, I love iReal Pro. Once you've got the backing tracks you want in there, it's fantastic and it's dead easy and really fast to get what you want out of it. For GarageBand, it does take a little bit more time, but it's actually easier to configure. So if you're trying to create something, then you'll find it much easier in GarageBand than iReal Pro. So let me have a look here. We've got some other comments coming here. I use this on my iPhone. It looks like you have a different version for iPad. Do you know if this is the case? So the iPhone and iPad versions of GarageBand are the same, except for the screen size. So they've had to change the locations of some of the buttons and things like that to make it fit the different screen sizes. But iPhone and iPad are identical in what they can do. But keep in mind that if your student uses a laptop version of GarageBand, it's different. The interface is different. What it can do is different. And a number of the things that I'm going to show you next week with some of the smart instruments and smart playing, where you can put a chord progression into the guitar and it will actually strum some really cool patterns. the laptop version can't do nearly as easily. So just keep that in mind as well. If a student goes, yeah, I've got GarageBand on my Mac at home, go, that's great, but the things I'm teaching you here are going to be a bit different to what it will look like and what it will be able to do on his or her laptop. Making tracks with 4 chords. Pat, use actual instruments with a mic or the instrument from the app. Well, good question. You can do either. I tend to, when I'm getting my students using GarageBand for composing, I'll get them to play an audio recording. So we'll turn on the microphone and we'll record them playing their 4-chord progression into the app, and we'll use that as a scaffold or a skeleton for them then building the instrumental mix around it, and then we'll just mute that and they can play it live or however you want to do it. But if a student can play another instrument, you could actually record that in by clicking the record function and just recording in from the microphone. Good question there. Christina loves the Groovebox. That's great. Can you cover singing and playing at the same time to record with the mic? I bought a mic and interface but can't work it out. So Julie, you should be able to... No, you won't be able to do it at the same time. You'll have to record one track and then the next track. It's a multi-track recorder in that way. So you'll need to record the piano part first, and you could do that either with the audio input or directly by plugging your digital piano into the iPad and then recording a mic over the top, but you can't do them at the same time. Cool. Any other questions, guys? I'm going to start wrapping things up really, really soon. So next week, as I say, same time, same place, and I'm going to create a track live for you in exactly the same kind of way. It should be really, really good fun. I'm looking forward to doing that. And remember too that the podcast, season 2 of the podcast started last Friday. Did anyone check out the interview with Philip Kevrin already? Philip is one of my favourite arrangers, and it was really good to talk to him about his 25 years worth of composing and arranging. Give me a thumbs up or a heart if you got a chance to listen to that episode. Of course, if you haven't, then make sure you do check it out. And you can, the easiest way to listen to my podcast is via my own app, and you can just search for Tim Topham in the App Store. Google or Android or iPhone, it's all there for you. Next week on the podcast, this Friday, we're releasing our Studio Business Tips podcast. And then, very, very exciting, the following week is the one and only John Schmidt from the Piano Guys. I had such fun interviewing this guy, and I know you're going to love listening to him. And for those of you in my inner circle, you can actually watch the video of me interviewing John Schmidt from the Piano Guys live in our resource library right now. It's already been uploaded, which is really cool. Okay, so remember that you can grab that guide at any stage. Click the guide, type guide into the comments. That should be sent through to you. Any issues, let me know. And 2, I must let you know as well that all of this talk about GarageBand has been, well, you know what, probably 2 years in the making. People have been asking me about creating some resources for GarageBand. So it's been a long time coming, but it's taken a lot of planning. But I'm very excited to let you know that I'm actually going to be releasing a full course on using GarageBand in the piano teaching studio. It's going to be coming out later this month, and we're going to do a full webinar with big audience as usual, as I love sharing with people. Full webinar on GarageBand, going into much greater detail than we did today, coming up at the end of this month. So stay tuned for more information on that. Okie doke. Well, I think that's about half an hour, which is about where I want it to be. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Please share this if you've enjoyed this and know of other people who might like it. Please hit the share button. It means a lot when people can share what I do with other people. And I know that GarageBand is something that a lot of people are keen to find out more about. And how good is it? It's free. I just love the fact that it's free. You can't get better than that. So do share this, and hopefully if you've enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up or a heart. I do love seeing them pop across the screen every now and then. It always means a lot. So I'm going to go and have a drink of water and blow my nose, and hopefully next week when I'm back with you, I'll be feeling a little bit better than I am today, and we'll look forward to creating some live tracks with you. I'm hanging out for it already. You can see how cool this app is. And how much I enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to sharing more about it with you next time. Any final questions? Shoot them through. I'll make sure I check the replay questions as well, so you can shoot them through to me at any stage. And particularly if you've got something that you'd like me to cover next week, I'll do my best to help you out. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wishing you all the best. Have a great week ahead. And I'll speak to you exactly the same time, same place next Sunday night or Monday, wherever you are in the world. Wishing you all the best, everyone. Bye-bye.